Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Cafe Oleh. My name is Jay. Here at Cafe Oleh with Nefesh B'Nefesh, we go over the everyday Hebrew you need here in Israel to succeed. Whether that's reading and paying your bills, going grocery shopping and reading nutritional labels, keeping up with the news, striking up a conversation, flirting, dating, job interviewing, all the everyday things you do in your native language in your country of origin, but here in Israel in modern Hebrew. As always, we'd love to hear from you what topics you'd like us to cover or just to hear from you in general. You can always email us at hebrew@nbn.org.il. You can also see all of our previous lessons up on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, type in Cafe Oleh. The very first entry should be a link to our playlist. We have now 140 plus videos with 21,000 plus views. Lots of previous content to go over with the last 70 or so classes containing the vocabulary spreadsheet as a PDF attachment. So plenty of content to review there. This lesson itself will go up in the next day or so. You can also write us there and subscribe to the Nefesh B'Nefesh playlist so you can get our latest classes up there. So you are always welcome to be in touch with us. If you're joining us live on Zoom, you can write to us on the chat with any questions, comments, concerns, requests you may have. The Q&A is reserved only for questions regarding this specific class that we're about to start. One last bit of housekeeping. You should have all seen not only in your reminders about today's class, but also in general, that the time has already changed here in Israel to what we call the winter clock, and we're going to talk about that tonight. But that is to remember that thankfully we are now in sync with the European Union with regards to which weekend we change. It used to be every year it changed based on what the government ruled from year to year, which created havoc. But that also means we're only a week difference from when North America changes their clocks. So for those of you who wrote into Nefesh B'Nefesh asking, is class still happening or not? As we say back in the old country, bless your heart, but this is not a program just for North Americans. This is a program based in Israel for people interested in learning modern Hebrew. So I hope that means you are keeping track of what's happening in Israel. We're going to have another class on media literacy in the next few weeks, so you can always be abreast of what's happening here, even with the most basic Hebrew levels. But that is to say that next weekend is when North America changes their clocks. Israel and many other countries have already done that here. So with that, and exactly on that topic, we're going to talk about making plans. This is the time of year after the long holiday season that we finally get back to business, or at least people are trying to get back to business. I don't know about you. I certainly have been rushed off my feet in the last 48 hours since everyone has come back from holiday time. So we're going to look at some vocabulary that's going to get us through this very busy or perhaps not so busy period, so you can feel a little bit more in control of your class, your schedule. And that is a preview for this week's Cafe Oleh Conversations class, which is now back. So we're going to talk about that at the top of the hour and answer your questions. But this week's class is going to be a preview for Wednesday's class, what we're going to discuss in our Conversations class, which I'll review at the top of the hour. With that, let's get started. As always, you are welcome to screenshot old school pen and paper or just sit back and watch. You will get a copy of this spreadsheet along with the recording of this video in the next day or so. So if you don't get it in your email, you can always find it at youtube.com. You don't need to write to us. Why am I not getting this in my email? youtube.com. Okay, so this period is, as I mentioned before, is what we call Achrei Chagim. Achrei Chagim literally means after the holidays, but it doesn't just mean that. We talked about this several times before we broke for the holidays. Achrei Chagim in Israel, when you say after the holidays, it's referring to the fall holidays, the Jewish fall holidays. And it's the equivalent in Hebrew of the American expression, let's do lunch, right? When you say that in America, it's understood to mean, oh yeah, we should grab lunch sometime, with not necessarily any intention of actually doing it or not doing it for a long period of time. Achrei Chagim is one of the few times in Israeli society we allow ourselves to do the exact same thing. For example, if someone says to you, Bo niyeh b'kesher achrei hagim. We're going to talk about this construct in a little bit again. Bo niyeh, literally come, we will be in touch, but it means let's be in touch achrei hagim, after the holidays. If someone in the last few weeks has said to you, bo niyeh b'kesher achrei hagim, it means, first off, I'm very busy during the holidays, but also you aren't necessarily my first priority right after the holidays. Maybe give me a day or so to get back to me, or reverse. And if not, that's also a license for you to be in touch sooner than me. Right? Bonia bekesha achrei chagim. Let's be in touch after the holidays. That could have been yesterday, the first day we're back in the office since the holiday season ended. That could be today, the second day. It could be next week. It could be 2 weeks from now. It could be a month from now. It's a very ambiguous period. Okay, it doesn't just mean literally after the holidays. It's the whole period where people are finally feeling a little bit more in sync with their work and everyday schedule. Okay, so if someone says this to you, it means I can't be bothered right now to put down a date when to meet or to talk. Either I'll get back in touch with you, or if this is really important to you, you need to be on this rather than me. Okay, so very important one. As well as this is a term that, while it's been around for a long time, it got popularized in mainstream society during Corona. Because what happened in Corona in Israel, we had several different sgerim. A segel is a lockdown, a lockdown, right? And we had several of them, and we had this period of, could we be in touch with people? Could we work from abroad? Could we learn from abroad? All these different things. And when it felt like things were getting normal again, we have the expression chazlash. Chazlash, as you see here with those two abbreviations, stands for chazara l'shigra. Chazara l'shigra simply means a return to normalcy. Chazara is a return, and shigra is a routine. We're going to talk about that word in a little bit again. But chazlash is what we call this period right now. It's not just acharei chagim, it's chazlash. It's trying to get back to some normal sense, not having every other day be a holiday or vacation, or my kids are in school, they're not in school, whatever it may be, chazlash. Right, so people will wish them each other right now a chazlash na'im, have a pleasant return to a normal routine, right? Whether that's work or whatever it may be, or school, whomever. Okay, so these three expressions are going to come back throughout this class and Wednesday's class, and in general in our everyday lives in Israel right now. First, let's talk about, before we talk about these more modern expressions, let's talk about an older word, or an older shoresh, root, that gives us a lot of words for making plans and making order out of life. In Hebrew, we talk about this all the time. It's always worth repeating. In Hebrew, every single word is comprised of two things: a root, in Hebrew called a shoresh, R-O-O-T, and a form. For nouns and adjectives, it's called a mishkal. For verbs, it's called a binyan. And when you put those two together, you get a word. And each of those two different factors have their own meaning. So for example, if we take the root samech daled resh, which in general has something to do with order, okay, O-R-D-E-R, we get a whole bunch of words that help us navigate this period of chazlash and acharei chagim. And you probably know a lot of these words already. For example, lisader. Lisader means to organize. Okay, it's the easiest word here. It's one of the older words we have here. You're going to see a lot of loan words from other languages, or you didn't know that they were loan words until now, right? But lisader is our first word, and it's a verb, right? Lisader, to organize. Seder is an order, right? To put some order, not an order as in a military order, but order. Okay? Seder adifuyot, an adifut is a priority or preference. Adifuyot, preferences or priorities. Seder adifuyot are priorities, putting those preferences in order. This is a term that came straight from English, la'asot seder, right? Instead of to organize, which we already have, right? We have la'asot seder, to make order, right? It's using the American expression or the English expression to make order out of something, and we're just translating it literally into Hebrew. You will hear people say that. Bo na'aseh seder mi ma sheyesh. Let's make some order out of what we have. Okay. A classic word you should already know, beseder, right? That classic word in Hebrew that means okay. Beseder literally means in order. Everything's in order. Beseder. Okay. Leil HaSeder, Seder night, Passover Seder night, right? Leil HaSeder. Sidur. Sidur in the singular means arranging, arrangement. It's the verbal noun of lisader, the ing, the organizing. And it also means a prayer book, right? Putting prayers in order, giving us some organization with regards to our prayers. Whereas the plural, sidurim, refers to errands. It could be one errand, it could be multiple errands, but sidurim are errands. You can think of them as tasks. It's more like errands. Misudal. Misudal, again, the same root comes up again and again. We got lots of important words that come from this one root that has to do with order. Misudal as an adjective can mean organized, it can be arranged, and as slang, it means someone who's financially set. There was a popular sitcom here in Israel several years ago, called Mesudarim. And the story was very similar to Entourage, but it was set in Israel, so it was all about high tech. Four friends create a really successful startup that they then exit, they sell it off, and they become Masudarim, and they live in one big villa together, right? And it's their story as Masudarim. They're financially set. They're well off. Literally organized, but as slang means financially well set. Lehasdil. Lehasdil takes the same root, and instead of being lesader, it's lehasdil, which means to regulate or to settle affairs, to make order out of something. Okay, to regulate or to settle affairs. Using that same formulation, we get the word hesder ti'un, or rather expression hesder ti'un, which is a plea bargain, right? An order or a settling of the argument is a more literal translation of it from the Hebrew, but in English, a plea bargain in judicial terms. Yeshivat Hesder, you've probably heard of this. It's been in the news a lot. It's a very important part of not just the military, but also Israeli society. A Yeshivat Hesder is, as it's written here, a combined military service with learning in a yeshiva. Right? So you combine learning and military service together, Yeshivat Hesder. The idea is that it's a arrangement. It's a settling, regulating both worlds together. The same root also gives us a sidra. In modern Hebrew, because remember this is a modern Hebrew class, folks. This is not a religious Hebrew class. This is a modern Hebrew class. A sidra is a TV series. Starot are plural, right? So a TV series, sidra betelevizia, a series on television. Starot, plural. Mistader, mistaderet, a very important expression. We've talked about this word before. I'm good or I'm all set. This is the answer when someone asks you, tzarich or tzicha ezra, do you need help? If you're in a store and the clerk comes up to you and says, do you need help? And you can simply answer, mistader or mistaderet. Or they might ask you in a question going up, like in English, mistader, mistaderet, depending on your own gender, mistader to a male, mistaderet to a female. They're asking, are you all set? As in, you're good to go, you don't have any questions? And they say, yes, you can answer Ken, ani mistadel, or simply Ken, right? If someone asks you, unless you need help, you can simply answer, yes, I'm good, I'm all set, or you can ask for help. Okay, so it's both a question or an answer. Okay, let's keep going. And then finally, we have Histadrut. Histadrut is the name that was coined in the early 20th century for what is the Labor Trade Federation. At the time, it was much smaller. Now it is the single and it's the single labor trade union in Israel, combined with several smaller ones. Histadrut, right? The idea of creating order out of everything that's going on. That same root, samech dalid resh, gives us a lot of important words. Let's get back to it. Let's find some other words that have to do with making plans and making some order out of everything. Chazlash comes back, right? That's an important term to keep under your belt. Chazara l'shigra. Shigra, as you see here, is a routine. That's different from a hergel, a hard word to pronounce, especially however you say the letter resh. If you say it like resh or resh, it's a little easier. Hergel or hergel means a habit, right? A routine versus a habit, I leave it to you to decide or to determine the difference. Lose. Lose, you'll hear a lot. Okay, lose simply stands for zmanim. Remember, anytime you see those two apostrophes between the second to last and last letters, you know it's an abbreviation or an acronym. We just did that class a few weeks ago. Another plug for our YouTube channel if you don't remember or you'd like a review. Luz stands for Luach Zmanim. Luach is a board. Zmanim, times. Okay, so you put the together, a board of times, a schedule, right? So your calendar on your Google Calendar or your Apple Calendar, whatever they have on Apple, or your printed one is called a luz in Hebrew, short for luach zmanim. Okay, and that could be a schedule for anything. It could be your personal schedule, it could be a work schedule, so forth. Matalot. Matalot are tasks, right? This is different than errands, sidurim. This is tasks. This could be work tasks. This could be things you need to do around the house. Matalot. Another term for the military. The military gives us a lot of terms, especially when we're talking about organizing and making plans, like we already did chazlash, luz as well. La'amod bizmanim. La'amod bizmanim is military slang, which means to be on time. It literally means to stand in the times. Okay? אני כרגע לא עומד בזמנים. אפשר לעזור לי? I currently am not on time. Can you give me some help? Right? That's how you would use it in more civilian terms, but la'amod bizmanim, to be on time, literally to stand in the times. And people do use this in everyday language, remembering that military plays a outweighed role in everyday Israeli life. Some other terms, early versus late. Early is mukdam, late is me'uchar. These are adjectives, so mukdam, mukdemet, mukdamim, mukdamot, if you were to fully conjugate it. Me'uchar, me'ucheret, me'ucharim, me'ucharot. Late. To delay or to become delayed. Le'akev is to delay something. And to become delayed, lehitakev. Okay, it's not active versus passive. That's a different formulation. This is to delay or to become delayed. Hitakavti biglal atuna barachov. I became delayed because of the accident on the street. Now in English, we often confuse to become, or we exchange, intersperse, whatever the word is. We mix up to become delayed versus to be delayed, right? In Hebrew, there are two different tenses. They actually are in English too. To become delayed versus to be delayed. To be delayed is the passive voice. To become delayed is not passive, right? In English, we would say, I'm delayed because of the traffic. You could say that in Hebrew, but you can equally say, Ani mitakev biglal hatuna barachov, and that's not considered passive voice. I have become delayed because of the accident on the street. Two different verbs. You can also look up how to conjugate those on our very special and favorite online tool, pe'alim.com, pealim.com. Okay, let's get to some more time terms and then get to some expressions about how to make plans. Ichul ofnati, coming from the same root as the word late, is ichul. Ichul is late, as in a noun. Me'uchal is the adjective. Ofnati, fashionable. Put the words together. Ichul ofnati is to be fashionably late. Okay. Sha'on choref, that's what we just started, aka standard time here in Israel, literally winter clock or winter time. Sha'on is both a clock, but in this case, it also means time. Sha'on choref, standard time, versus Sha'on kites, summertime. Summertime, or the summer clock in Hebrew, is referring to daylight saving time. Okay. Yoman is a diary, coming from the word yom, day. Diary, as in something you write in every day, or supposed to, or perhaps. Some other verbs beyond l'sadir, which are really important. And again, leaving it up to you to conjugate them, as well as in our Wednesday class, which I'll talk about shortly. Lesanchren. Lesanchren is to synchronize. If it didn't sound like it already, now you know this is one of our words from today that come from English. Hebrew, and we've talked about this before in several different classes, youtube.com, another plug there, is a easy an adapter of words, new words from other languages, from within Hebrew to create new ideas. This is a great one. Taking the verb from English to synchronize, right? To synchronize our clocks, to synchronize our plans, to synchronize what we're doing, so forth. Excuse me. Taking the essence of that verb, because in English, the shoresh isn't nearly as cohesive as it is in Hebrew, and we plug it into a rather adaptable form of verbs. For those who are a little bit more advanced, you know this as binyan PL. And we create the verb lesanchren. Most new verbs that we create in Hebrew are PL or hitpael. Like le'akev and lehitakev, lesanchren is PL, taking what sounds like to synchronize, or at least most of it, and plugging it into Hebrew grammar. Lesanchren, to synchronize. You will hear this verb, by the way, just as you will hear a verb that you probably didn't realize is English. Excuse me, le'algen. We use this verb all the time in Hebrew. Irgun is an organization, as in an entity, a company. Le'algen is to organize. That could be to organize a meeting, to organize a party, to organize anything. Le'algen is English. This was a major, the more you know moment for me, right? Listen to the word, le'algen, le'argen, organize. We simply took the word organize, saying that lisader is good, and it's done us good for a lot of years, thousands of years, in fact, but it's not quite getting to organize as in an organization, right? We have histadrut for the Labor Trade Federation, but that doesn't explain, for example, something that is organized, or I need to organize my schedule for the week. Le'algen is that word. Taking from English, plugging into Hebrew grammar, just like lesanchren, but very, very, very commonplace. Le'algen. Okay. Another word that comes, this word comes from Hebrew and we turned it into a verb, is the verb to plan, right? Top of today's class, to make plans, making plans. Litachmen is to plan. That could be to plan the building of a skyscraper. That could be planning a meeting, planning a birthday party, whatever it is. Litachnen. Litachnen comes from the Hebrew word tochnit. Tochnit simply means a plan. So we take a plan, the noun, plug it into our Hebrew grammar to create new verbs, litachnen. Okay. So to plan, litachnen, something that is planned, metuchnan, taking the participle of the verb. We've talked about participles in the past. The point, though, is to give you the vocabulary that we're talking about now. Two verbs that will always get interchanged, and there is a difference between them when we're talking about making plans. That also includes meeting people, right? In Hebrew, we have two verbs that sound very similar because they have the exact same shoresh, the exact same root of pei gimel shin, but they are used in different contexts, and it's a very important difference. So if you're writing right now in the chat or the Q&A, please stop and pay attention to this. We've talked about this before. We're going to talk about it again. Always worth repeating. Lifgosh and lehipagesh. Lifgosh means to meet in a formal setting. Ani tzarich lifgosh otcha hayom. I need to meet you today. You don't want to hear that, right? That's not a good thing because that usually means it's in a formal setting, i.e. work. Whereas, bo nipagesh hasofash, let's meet up this weekend. That is very casual. That is between friends. Lifgosh is only to be used to mean to meet as in a formal setting. You're showing deference to older relatives, you're at work, it's something in a formal setting, whereas lehipagesh is casual, between friends, between loved ones. Okay? Lifgosh, lehipagesh. Lifgosh, for those of you who are a little bit more advanced, is binyan pa'al. Lehipagesh is binyan nif'al. Don't worry if you don't know what those are. Te'alim.com will conjugate the entire verb for you. Okay. By the way, if you are raising your hand here, we are at 250 people, which is amazing. But if you have a question, please write them in the Q&A, not in the chat. I'll only be answering questions from the Q&A. But anything else you'd like us to look at later, please write in the chat. But if you're raising your hand, which is an awesome function, when we're not 250 people, excuse me, I would normally call on you, but we don't have that capacity here in this webinar. Okay. To meet, what if you need to postpone? Lidchot, right? Lidchot in the context of making plans and scheduling things means to postpone. Lidchot can also mean to reject something. Okay, it also means to reject, and I'm going to put that here as well so you also know. Also to reject. Okay, postpone or reject. Versus to cancel, levatel. Okay, אני מצטער, צריכים לבטל את הפגישה שלנו היום. I'm sorry, I need to cancel our meeting today. Or מצטער, אני צריך לדחות את הפגישה שלנו. I'm sorry, I need to postpone our meeting. There is a difference when in Hebrew we use לדחות versus לבטל. One is to postpone and the other, לבטל, to cancel entirely. Okay? הזמן המשוער. Azmana Mishu'al or Hasha'a Mishu'eret, we're just taking a different unit of time. Zman is just general time. Sha'a is a specific, more specific time, literally meaning hour. Both of these mean an estimated or approximate time. For example, I'm having work done on my roof. I can ask my landlord, Kama Zman Mishu'al ad she'avodot istaimu. How much time or approximate time until the work is done? Okay. Kama zman mishu'al, how much approximate time or estimated time. Okay, that's what that means. Either of those terms, one is masculine, one is feminine. Zman masculine, sha'a feminine, zman mishu'al, sha'a mishu'eret. At the same time and in parallel, very similar words, slightly different meanings, depending on the context. Bevat achat is a expression in Hebrew meaning at the same time. And bimakbil in parallel. Let's say you want to make plans all together, or you need to multitask and do different things at the same bimakbil or bivat achad, in parallel or at the same time. Okay, lots of great words to describe how to make plans. What's the difference? Or we're trying to make order out of the chaos. How do we describe chaos in Hebrew? Always important. You know some of these words. The classic one, of course, balagan. Balagan is chaos, and it's not just chaos as in, erratic. Chaos is the lack of order in Hebrew. So if something is balagan, nothing is organized, or if it is, it's all over the place, and it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Balagan is the noun. The adjective is mivulgan. Hayali yom mivulgan. I had a chaotic day, or a messed up or confused day, or hamatzav me'od mivulgan. The situation is very confusing or messed up. Okay, noun balagan, adjective mivulgan. And then the person who creates, or is he himself or herself chaos, embodies chaos, is a balaganist. Balaganist is male, balaganistit, female. Right? We take the English ending ist that we often put on words to indicate a person is doing it, put it into Hebrew, transliterate it into Hebrew, balaganist. If you call someone a balaganist, they are out to create chaos, or they inherently are a chaotic person. This is a sports term that we use all the time in Hebrew, regardless if you follow football, aka soccer, aka football. Dakat tishim. Dakat tishim is the last minute. You will hear people say daka achona, literally in Hebrew, the last minute, but we also say dakat tishim. Dakat tishim is, by the way, in normal times, in Chazlash, would be a really good website for discounted travel in and out of Israel, DAKA 90, right? Because what is Dakat Tishim? It's the last minute of a football match. A football match, aka soccer, 90 minutes, right? So the very last minute, if you do something but Dakat Tishim, you haven't necessarily planned it out. You're waiting till the last minute to do something. Atzlan is a lazy person. Atzlan, atzlanit, atzlaniim, atzlaniot. Someone who's lazy, i.e., they're not well organized or they're taking their time. Not necessarily taking their time in a good way, right? And that gets us to this term. I learned this term learning Hebrew at a younger age. I love this term because how it was explained to me. Be'atzaltaim. Be'atzaltaim, well, the easiest way to translate it is lazily as an adverb, right? Hu siyem et ha'avoda be'atzaltaim. Normally, we would translate that as he lazily finished the work. But it doesn't mean lazily. It's with deliberate slowness. It almost is like they're doing it out of malice, how slow they are. Lazily implies, oh, the person doesn't have any motivation or they're tired. No, be'atzal time means that they're deliberately going slow. As it was explained to me when I first learned this word, with deliberate slowness. And I love that expression. Right? So be'atzal time is a great word. If you want to complain about how someone is doing their work or not doing their work, or how long it's taking to get a reply to something, or how long it's taking to make plans. Wow, הוא פשוט עושה את זה בעצל time. הוא פשוט מתכנן בעצל time. He's simply doing that deliberately slow, or he's planning deliberately slow. Okay, that's how that means. Great word. Let's look at some expressions to help you make plans. And this is by the way, a preview for Wednesday's class, our conversation class, because we're going to be using not just the vocabulary we went over, but starting with conversation prompts like some of these. Matai ata panui, or matai at pnuya. You would say to a male, matai ata panui, when are you free or available? To a female, matai at pnuya. Matai is the question word when. Ata or at, you, and panui means available. It comes from the same root as the verb lefanot, to evacuate, or lihit panot, to become free. And the idea is, when do you have free time? When are you available? When do you not have anything that you need to be doing? Right? So panui, pnuya, pnuim, pnuyot. That could be an appointment that's free or available. That could also be you that's free or available. So when you ask someone and you're trying to make plans with them and you ask, Matai ata panui, right? You're asking, when are you free? And you're asking to get an answer with a specific date and or time. Here's one way to offer a plan. There are plenty of ways, right? Just like in English, there are so many different ways to make a plan. Chashavti al. I was thinking about. Remember in Hebrew, I thought and I was thinking can be translated the same way using the past tense. Chashavti al. מתי אתה פנוי? חשבתי על לצפות בסרט בסינמטק השבוע. When are you free? מתי אתה פנוי? חשבתי על, I thought about, or I was thinking about, לצפות בסרט, watching a film בסינמטק, at the Cinematheque, השבוע, this week. Okay? Another great way to make plans is this expression, or this construction in Hebrew, bo ne. What does this mean? We take the verb lavo, to come, C-O-M-E, we turn it into its command form in the plural. So bo'u, bo is singular to a male, boi singular to a female, bo'u plural, right? In English, you've heard this before, right? Come, let's eat. Many a Hebrew song has been translated, come, let's. It sounds terrible in English, folks, but in Hebrew, this is the way we talk. Bo nelgen mashu. Let's organize something, right? You don't have to say, come, let's organize something. It's implied, let's organize something. This is the equivalent in English to let's. Okay, let's. Oops, sorry. What happened there? There we go. Bo nipagesh hashavua. Let's meet up this week. בואו נקבע פגישה השבוע. Let's set a time for a meeting this week. Okay, lots of different ways to use this. The point is, let's do something in the plural sense. We're not giving instructions to ourselves out loud. We're doing it with at least one other person. Bo plus the future tense, first person plural, anachnu, ne. That's what the ne, the nun there is for. To remind you that the way you do this, bo, future tense, first person plural. Let us, right? In English, let's. Yotel meuchar is later. We already went over how to say early. So earlier would be yotel meuchar, yotel mukdam. Yotel meuchar, later. Yotel mukdam, earlier. Yotel simply means more. Put in front of an adjective, it is the equivalent of er, right? Comparisons and superlatives we've also covered in the past. Yotel meuchar, later. Yotel mukdam, earlier. A great expression. Let's say you're on the phone with someone, or you're in the middle of a meeting and you get a phone call, and you can't take the call. You can ask the person, "Efshar lachzor elai?" Lachzor means to return, but in this context, it means, "Can you get back to me?" Or if it's on the phone, "Can you call me back?" Efshar lachzor elai? Can you get back to me? Or let's say you want to give them an actual time. Efshar lachzor elai be'od kechatzi sha'a? A very important one, by the way. If you are called by a telemarketer or you're called by a service provider you really do need to talk to as opposed to a telemarketer, or you just can't take a call, right? How do you tell someone to call you back? This is how you're going to do it. Efshar, the polite way to ask a question. Lachzor, literally to return. Elai, to me or towards me. Be'od, od is another. Be'od, in another. Kechatzi sha'a. First off, chetzi sha'a, half an hour. Chetzi is half, sha'a is hour, chetzi sha'a. When you put the prepositional prefix ke at the beginning of a timestamp, right? Ke means like or as. But when you put it in front of a timestamp like chetzi sha'a, or any number, it's not just time, it's also numbers, it means approximately or roughly or so. For example, if you watch the news, unfortunately, when is an initial report of a missile attack, they'll often say shigur shel ke asara tilim, a volley of approximately um, 10 or so rockets, or 10 or so rockets, or give or take 10 rockets, right? That's what that means. If shalach zoelai, can you get back to me? Can you call me back? Be'od, in another, kechatzi sha'a. I'm not saying count down the minutes and seconds until 30 minutes has passed, a half hour has passed. Approximately 30 minutes, can you get back to me? Okay, people will get the message. So a lot going on in this one question as a reply. If shalach zoelai, can you get back to me in another half hour or so, or approximately a half hour? Okay, if I want to say exactly half an hour, I would just take out the ke. And I would say, can you get back to me in another half hour? And that tells me half hour passes, I can call, and theoretically they should be available. Let's give them a little bit more leeway. Excuse me. We had that verb le'akev or lehitakev. Here is the verbal noun, the act of delaying, aka a delay. Slicha la'ikuv. Let's say, for example, you're on your way to a meeting and you're running late. Right? We had the word late before. What do you say when you're on your way? We're going to get to those expressions in a second, but one thing you can say is slicha la'ikuv. That could be in getting to a meeting. That could be in getting back to someone. That could be all sorts of different things. If you need to apologize for the time delay, slicha alaikuv. Slicha, excuse me. Al, for, it literally means on or about, regarding. Haikuv, the delay. Okay. And then finally, two ways to confirm plans. Okay. In Hebrew, modern Hebrew, when you want to confirm plans that you talked about. בואו נהיה בקשר לפני הסופש. Let's be in touch before the weekend. Your reply, סגור, confirmed. Or let's say, אנו נפגשים ב-5 אחרי הצהריים ביום חמישי. We're meeting at 5 in the afternoon on Thursday, and you can say סגרנו. סגרנו, סגור, both come from the verb לסגור, to close, and it literally means closed or sealed are the plans, confirmed. Right? In English, you would simply reply in that context, confirmed. The equivalent in Hebrew is sagur or sagarnu. Or you can use the word kavanu. Kavanu is the verb, is the past tense first person plural, we, of the verb likboa. Likboa means to both affix something, but also to make plans. So if you say, kavanu להיפגש ב-5 אחרי הצהריים מחר. We've confirmed to meet at 5 in the afternoon tomorrow. Or simply, קבענו ל-5 מחר. Right? Either one is okay. I'll write these here just so you see the difference, but they mean the exact same thing. קבענו להיפגש מחר ב... Or קבענו ל... Right? Both of these mean were confirmed for meeting up at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, that's what that means. We're gonna practice those in Wednesday's class, but just so that you know what that looks like, kavanu or sagalnu, right? In terms of confirming plans. And then finally, we talked about Achrei Chagim being a very ambiguous period. I'm going to give you one more time. Israelis can be extremely ambiguous. Ani b'derech. If anyone tells you ani b'derech and you want to know exactly where they are, you need to follow up and ask them. Because if someone says ani b'derech, that could mean they're still getting dressed. It can mean they just left the house. It can mean that they're 2 steps away from you. Ani b'derech is like saying achrei chagim. There is no actual sense of what that means in terms of I'm on the way in English. Just like achrei chagim should mean the next few days after the holiday season is over. Ani b'derech is the same thing. If someone replies to you after you ask them eifo ata, where are you, or eifo at, to a female, and they say ani b'derech, they are being purposely ambiguous because maybe they're not so close. Maybe they're going to be be'ichur ofnati, fashionably late to something, i.e. they're going to be late. If they say ani kvar ba or ani kvar b'derech, using the word kvar already, it means that they are indeed on their way. Again, you don't necessarily know where that means, but if someone says ani kvar ba, for example, you make plans or you need some help. Efshar la'azor li b'mashu b'bayit, can you help me with something at home? And someone replies, ani kvar ba, I'm already on the way, meaning, of course I'll help you, I'm already coming, right? Help is on the way. Excuse me. Both, however, are very ambiguous in terms of where they actually are in relation to you. I see we have a bunch of questions. I'm going to take them and then before the top of the hour, talk about Wednesday's class. So let me open those up in the Q&A. Is chazlash an appropriate term for a reservist to use who has been given leave? No. Great question. If they only have a temporary leave, which in Hebrew, in military slang is either a yitziyah, a departure, or an after, meaning an after, like an after party, unless they're released from miluim, from reserve duty, you wouldn't say chazlash, because chazlash means a return to normalcy, a return to a routine. If they're only in between, they're only getting a few days past, it's not chazlash. Great question. Lasot seder is the same as lisader. It isn't. Because it's just like in English, we have the term to make order, and to organize. They don't mean the same thing. First off, because לעשות סדר is coming from English. It's understood. לעשות סדר מהבלגן שהוא יצר. To make order out of the balagan, the chaos that he created. Or simply לסדר את הלו"ז. Organize your calendar. Okay, your schedule. Different meanings, just like in English, to organize versus to make order. To make order is more like you're trying to order something in the sense of make it a little bit easier to understand. To organize is perhaps is just about time. Okay, slight difference, but important. Can you please elaborate on conjugating a person being late as opposed to using late as an adjective? Sure. So here we have early, late, to delay, and to become delayed. Great. Okay. Each of these, mukdam and meuchar, come from verbs. We have the verb lehakdim, to be early, and leacher, to be late. Okay, but we're using these as adjectives, which is often how you're going to hear these. Hu higia mukdam hayom. Let me make a sample sentence here. Right? Hu higia mukdam la misrad hayom. Right? Hu higia mukdam la misrad hayom. He arrived early to the office today. Okay, here, this is an adverb actually, because huigia mukdam, he arrived early. But this is the example for that. Let's say, you could say the same thing. Huigia meuchar lemisrad hayom. He arrived late. That's technically an adverb because it's describing his arrival rather than him. But a person being late, he was late. Hu haya meuchar, right? It's still an adverb in the sense that it's describing his action rather than him. You can't be a late person. You can be late to something, right? Hu haya meuchar lamisrad hayom. He was late to the meeting, late to the office today, right? That's what this means. Hu haya, he was meuchar, late, lamisrad, to the office today. Okay. But for example, you could say השעה מאוחרת מדי. השעה מאוחרת מדי, or זה מאוחר מדי עכשיו. It's too late, right? מאוחר, late, מדי, too late. Okay, that's what that would mean. Okay. Is listadir used more to speak of arranging or organizing things physically, not as in thoughts or tasks? Not necessarily, because you can organize. Yeah, I actually would say that listadir is more to organize things physically. You could say lisadir matalot. You don't really hear that as much. You hear more like le'algen matalot, as in using the our other verb here, le'algen, to organize your tasks, right? Or lesanchren et matalot, to synchronize the tasks at hand. So it goes both ways. Lisader is often used, for example, if you need to lisader et habayit. That means to organize your house, to tidy up your house. It doesn't mean to clean, it means to organize, right? But it is a physical act. Whereas if it's about tasks or errands or things that are a little bit more abstract, we're going to use one of these other verbs. That's a good way to think about it. Thank you for that question. How do you distinguish between errands and multiple prayer books? That's a very easy answer, folks. And that's an answer when it's with regard to it's Hebrew or English or any other language. The word is context. If you can't figure out sidurim, errands versus multiple prayer books in a given context, you need to ask more questions. The sentence isn't clear enough. But I promise you, if someone is running around in the day and say that yeshli hamon sidurim lesayem, I have a lot of blank to finish, I can promise you They are not saying, I have a lot of prayer books to finish. They're saying, I have a lot of errands to finish. Context is key, no matter the language. Is the word for cancel the same as declaring something ownerless? No, it is not. And like chametz on Pesach. So I love when people try to use their religious contexts and the religious and Hebrew and Jewish knowledge, biblical Hebrew knowledge. It doesn't mean the same thing. Levatel is to cancel. Okay, mivutal is something canceled, but it is not ownerless. This does not mean ownerless. That's a different verb. I'm not including it here because it doesn't have to do with making plans. But to cancel plans, levatel tochniot. Okay. Efshar lachzor elecha means, can I call you back? Yes, absolutely. You can conjugate efshar lachzor elai. Again, hopefully you all picked on the cue like you will for Wednesday's class. You can play around with all of these. It's not always going to be a half hour. Sometimes it's going to be an hour. Sometimes you're the person who needs to get back to me versus me to get back to you, or vice versa. Okay? These are there to play around with, but absolutely. Efshar lachzor elecha means, can I get back to you? I've heard Terem lo likboa also using tvach aroch, tvach zmanim. Is that good in conversation? Try using lose. I will check my lose. Get strange look. Am I saying this wrong? No, lose means luach zmanim. It means my schedule. אני צריך לבדוק את הלו"ז שלי. Yep, absolutely. I use that all the time in talking to people. Heard term also using tvach aroch or tvach zmanim. Tvach simply means range. Okay, let me write that down because we got this question. I'll make it bigger before we send it out. Tvach means range. So tvach katzar is a short term. Tvach aroch, long term. Tvach katzar, tvach aroch, short term, long term. Okay. Can you say beseder gamur instead of sagol? Of course you can. Folks, this isn't about Cafe Oleh, and thank you for the question. This isn't about reviewing the vocabulary you probably already have. This is about improving and increasing your vocabulary. So you probably have heard the word sagul or sagalnu before. You may just not have known that in the context of making plans, this is also a way to confirm plans. Okay, but beseder gamur means completely all right. Absolutely, you can use that to affirm something. Doesn't panui also mean single as opposed to married? Yes, remember what I said. Are you available? Right? If you are available in a romantic context, that means that you are available. You are not married. Okay? Just as it says here, English. Free, available. It does mean panui in the social romantic sense as well. Available. I thought fauda means chaos in both Hebrew and Arabic. I didn't say balagan was Arabic, did I? Balagan is the word that we use in Hebrew. Okay, let me put some seder, some order in the balagan, chaos. Balagan means chaos. Nikuda. We use this term all the time. You are not going to hear. I know people love that series. I myself can't watch it. It's a little too close to home to watch fauda. Fauda in Arabic does mean chaos. Okay, we do not use that term in everyday Hebrew. People will understand what it means, but you don't hear it nearly as much as the word balagan. Balagan, you'll hear at least 5 times a day. On TV, on the street, you'll probably do it yourself. Okay, fauda is not a term that we use on a regular basis. Yes, it's in TV. That doesn't mean it's necessarily everyday life. Someone is asking if titkasher or titkashri elai, is that non-committal? Lehit kasher means to get in touch. Literally to create a kesher, connection. Lehit kasher is to connect. Titkasher elai, as this person is asking, titkasher elai is the command form of get in touch. Okay, that's a command, right? Without any other context, if someone says to you, "Titkasher elai" or "Titkashri elai," depending on your gender, that means get in touch, as in do it. Didn't give you a specific time, but it is telling you to do something. It is absolutely committal. It's just not telling you what time to do things. Okay, with that, the preview for this week's Wednesday class. As you know, on Mondays, we have our Cafe Oleh session, 250 people here, even more sometimes, learning Hebrew together, which, folks, let's just take a step back. That is unheard of in the world, that so many people want to learn modern Hebrew and practical modern Hebrew. So thank you all for participating. Toda rabah. Our Wednesday classes are called Cafe Oleh Conversations on Purpose. We take Monday's class, we give you some more vocabulary, we give you some conversation starters. You break up into breakout rooms based on your current proficiency level, which we explain in our emails as well as in class, and in a totally off the record, unrecorded setting, you're broken up into small groups, 2 or 3 people, and you have conversations. You practice what Hebrew you have. You practice the conversation topics we give you and the topics we cover in the week, to practice actually speaking and listening and breaking your teeth in making this an integral part of your everyday life using Hebrew. Okay, so just as we talked about making plans today, on Wednesday, you're going to practice making plans in Hebrew with each other. You're going to be given a couple scenarios. You can also go on your own. The point, though, is to make plans, whether they're with each other or you're talking about plans that you made with someone else, or plans got canceled or things got changed. That's what we're going to be practicing on Wednesday. Just like all our future Cafe Oleh conversation classes on Wednesdays, here on Zoom, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Israel time, are practicing listening and speaking in Hebrew. We are unfortunately out of time. So Dagaba, thank you all for joining. You'll receive a copy of this class along with the spreadsheet in the next day or so, as well as being up on YouTube. If you have any questions in the meantime, hebrew@nbn.org.il. And until Wednesday's class and next Monday's class, take care and litraot.